right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this week's episode of Roundabout Sports presented by Interstate 70 Sports Media, where our passion is our profession. Thank you so much for tuning in this Wednesday night, ladies and gentlemen. I am the maestro, Jeremy Carp, and alongside me is a man that even though baseball season is over, he is not out of work yet. Everyone's favorite umpire, Hollywood James Knox.
Good evening, sir. How are we doing?
I'm doing all right, James, and I know you could be better given what's going on with your sports teams.
Ugh. Look, I am at let's see, where are we at now? 17. We are at 20 days without a win.
Yeah, James, any of the sports teams James is a fan of, they have not won in 20 days. Normally, you would hear that from me, given that I'm a Cleveland Browns fan, but they won a couple Monday nights ago, so yes.
And they didn't play this past weekend, did they?
Nope.
So there you go. See, you have the pleasure of not losing like I did the weekend before when my teams were off. So
right,
yeah, it's a sad situation.
Oh yeah, most definitely. And be sure to submit questions, comments, anything, folks, here, and we will definitely try to get them on air. First, we're going to be talking about, folks, is the can't believe we're going to do this. The World Series that, unfortunately, the Houston Astros won over the Philadelphia Phillies. And first, we got Jack's History, who says, every time Alabama loses, my team wins. I mean,
You're getting your Jack's History. You're getting nothing for your birthday.
Well, I was going to say I agree, but I mean, I kind of want something for my birthday. So never mind.
Well, so, I mean, look, and I'm going to kind of pull back the curtain here. Jack's History is my nephew. So I get him being a big Trevor Lawrence fan. I have taken nothing but browbeating from him since Trevor and Mr. Sunshine and those Clemson Tigers beat Alabama the first time.
Oh.
So, and his birthday is on Friday. So happy birthday. You're still getting nothing. Matter of fact, I won't even be here. So anyway,
wow.
I digress.
Having salt in the wound. Ouch.
Look, I give him hell, and I've given him hell every time the Jaguars lose. And now it's like my team, by statistical value, is worse than his. So it's bad that the Rams are worse than the Jags. So he could really fire back with me on that. At least I have the defending Super Bowl champions. But nonetheless, I can't. I have no firepower in my arsenal this year.
Not at all. So with that, okay, James, everybody wanted. I feel like, especially given that the Phillies were the 87 win team. Oh, hang on, we got another one from our good friend Christopher Miles, one of the top referees in the Midwest. Dear friend, you can find him at PWE and Dynamo Pro, amongst so many other promotions out there. So
evening, Chris.
It was a great pleasure. And Mark O'Brien saying Mac Jones is who Rams wish Stafford was. I'll tell you at this rate,
Mac Jones will never win a Super Bowl. Sorry, he just won't.
The team.
Hey, Chucky, how we doing, big boy?
Hey, Chuck, thank you so much for tuning in. So,
wow, we're popular tonight.
We're popular, and I love every single second of it. So, okay.
I saw that, Jackson.
Before we get into football talk, yes, we have to bring up the Phillies 87-win team. They beat the Cardinals in the wild card round, and everybody, a lot of Cardinal fans wanted to see the Phillies go all the way for that reason, believe it or not. And I felt the same way. I was like, look, if this is the team that beat us, and then you see how they played against the Braves, who had an absolute amazing late season surge. And, you just see how Philly stacks up against the other top teams in the National League. And then they gave Houston hell for a little bit. Played a hell of a game one. Game 3 was really intense as well. But at the end, Houston just too much for them to overcome. And the Astros, I will say congrats to Dusty Baker, the oldest manager to win a World Series, 73, I believe, 73 years old. And, he's won one as a player, I believe back in 1981. And now he's won one as a manager with the Astros. So, other than that, though, I'm not going to lie, not a fan of Houston win the World Series, and I have no shame in saying that. James, what do you think on this?
Right. And I was one of the Cardinal fans that wanted Philly to win. It was strictly one because of that. Two, I cannot stand the Houston Astros and what that organization stands for. Uh, it's going to be interesting because I don't think the Phillies will go away anytime soon. Obviously, they are loaded with talent. JT Realmuto. They've got Bryce Harper. Bryson Stott. They've got old, middle-aged, and young talent. But do not be surprised if they don't enter and win the Trey Turner sweepstakes when it comes to free agency. This team is going to spend a stupid amount of money. We've heard their owners say it before. And, they're going to be one of those teams that I think everybody has to watch out for and look for in free agency to make a big splash. I mean, obviously, you don't want to be a team. And look, the NL East is a beast of a division. You've got the Braves, the Mets, the Phillies, and the Braves and Mets both won over 100 games. And I expect the Miami Marlins to be better, a team that's going to be coached by Skip Schumacher. But when it comes down to it, it was all about pitching. And that's where the Astros were able to kind of one up the Phillies, with the exception of Game 3, where Lance McCullers got taken to the woodshed by that Phillies offense that hit 5 home runs in Game 3. The one thing that I hate, and Chuck just mentioned it, and I was getting ready to talk about it, the 3 true outcomes really hurt Philadelphia. The strikeout, the walk, or the base hit. And they struck out 72 times in this series. And as Chuck said, I hate this trend of feast or famine, launch angle and exit velo. How about we put a ball in play? Chuck, you and I are both traditionalists. I know Jeremy feels the same way. There was something about the teams that could play small ball. We go back to Whitey's Cardinals and being able to play, with Vince Coleman, Ozzie Smith, Willie McGee, those teams that could put the ball in play, that would not be afraid to lay down a bunt to advance a runner or even to try to beat one out. We don't see that anymore. The stolen base is a lost art, with the exception of guys like Tommy Edman, who stole 27 this year. You just don't see that. And Chuck, I am with you 100%. We see this every spring. Chuck, one of my colleagues, we see this every spring. It's not just baseball. It's in softball as well. Everybody wants to hit the home run. Nobody wants to lay down a bunt and advance a runner, because there's nothing sexy about a sacrifice bunt to the third baseman. And we see this, and it costs teams that should go a lot further. It costs them games. If you've got speed, and look, the Phillies do, the Dodgers do, the Cardinals have speed, even though we saw them struggle to get anybody even on base against the Phillies to advance them. These teams have speed, yet nobody wants to, lay down a bunt or put a ball in play. I got a runner on second, and one of the best guys that the Cardinals had that can do this to advance a runner just retired, and that's Yadier Molina. He would literally throw the bat to hit a ball to the right side to advance a runner. Unfortunately, and even though sports are cyclical, I don't see it coming back, because you've got agents like Scott Boras out there that, he promotes the fact that, well, my guy hit 35 home runs. There's nothing sexy about having 10 sack flies and driving in runs, or being just a team that can manufacture runs.
Anybody can. It's all about the long ball. That's the thing. In Cardinal Nation, the joke is chicks dig the young ball.
Except for the fact that he's not hitting anything.
Except he's not hitting anything. But it is true that nowadays home runs are just look at Aaron Judge is the perfect example. Breaking the longtime record of Roger Maris in home runs in the American League. And meanwhile, you know what, you mentioned Tommy Edman when he had 27 stolen bases. Go back 30, 40 years, that's like a month worth of stolen bases for a player.
Right.
I mean, but now you're talking about an entire year's worth. No, it just blows my mind. And I like the point you brought up about Scott Boras. It's just a good way to get more money for both themselves and their clients. Right. You can pay somebody more money if they can hit 40 home runs on average a year than if they could get on base via more singles and doubles. And see, Chuck brings up how Maddox and Glavine used the chicks dig the long ball thing 20 years ago. And honestly, you would be hard pressed to find some of the more shutdown pitchers of the past 50 years than Greg Maddux and Tom Glavine.
Well, look, I mean, and that's a great point Chuck brings up. The problem is, I wish baseball would go back, and it's terrible that they had to implement, banning the shift and everything else to kind of put the game of baseball back where it should be. But I mean, pitchers like Maddox and Glavine don't exist anymore because sabermetrics tells me that when we get to the third time around in a lineup, I've got to pull my pitcher. It blows my mind. And guys that are traditionalists, guys that like Tony La Russa, a Bobby Cox, I mean, just like a Lou Piniella, a Tommy Lasorda, those ilk, the managers of those ilk, they don't exist anymore. Everybody's got their heads so far, inside a computer or up, it's all numbers. And the problem is you could play any sport on a piece of paper, just put down numbers and exactly what should happen. But it should be eye test. Like it, and I what drives me nuts is if I were a manager, I would manage with the old fashioned way. The problem is I would get fired. Mike Schilt tried that stuff. And the thing with Mike Schilt is what did they fire him? Philosophical differences, because he didn't believe that everything had to be numbers and sabermetrics and this long ass printout that has binary code on it that some nerd is reading. I mean, we're talking about, there's a reason why the game is played. If we were going to go by numbers and everything, we would just, we would play it on a computer. But it's, I don't know. I mean, I know we're kind of getting off the beaten path here with the Astros and the Phillies, but I don't know. The hell with the Astros. It pisses me off that they won. Does it surprise me? No, because they ultimately had the better pitching staff. That's the one thing that has not changed about postseason baseball. Good pitching beats good hitting any day of the week and twice on Sunday.
Yep,
or on Saturday in this case.
I was going to say, so now Houston joins the elite club of teams with multiple World Series wins.
Bullshit.
And it's not...
Trash can beaters. The word elite there. Like somebody asked Mad Dog if you would consider them a dynasty. Thank you, Jared. I appreciate that.
Oh,
and they asked him if they should be a dynasty. And Mad Dog, well, thank God he's on Sirius XM where he can say pretty much whatever he wants because he was pretty hot about it. He's like, who are you going to compare him to? He didn't need to beat on a trash can to win. Yeah, I do agree with Mock there. Yordan Alvarez is a stud. Kid just got himself paid for when he hits free agency. But, and I'll tell you somebody else to look out for who was extremely impressive in this series, and that's Jeremy Pena. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. I mean, he was, he sure did, Chuck. Mad Dog went off, to say the least.
Well, I was going to say, and Pena he's just 25 years old. And he's the youngest position player to win the World Series MVP award. That right there is all you need. He hit, I believe, 253 this year.
Yeah,
which solid enough.
Right. But he's got power for days, and that's
because he hit 22 home runs, stole 11 bases.
And look, the ball he hit at Minute Maid Park. Okay. The one that went to dead center, I have never, and I've watched, I mean, we've seen Pujols just obliterate a baseball in that stadium. I have never seen a ball go that far, that high, or have that trajectory to leave the park where it did. That was a bomb. I think they said it went 452. It wouldn't surprise me if you would have flip-flopped those first two numbers. That damn thing, you might have needed a launch countdown for as high as that ball was hit.
Without a doubt. So, folks, we are going to transition now from our lovely World Series that James just so much loved talking about to the good old gridiron, that being the National Football League, No Fun League, No Fans League, whatever you want to call it.
Hang on. I want to go look at Jared's question there before we move on because I want to address this first.
Ooh.
Yeah. So
I already know my answer for that one.
well, you go first because I will probably rant about this. Go ahead.
Okay, so Jared says, so for the MLB draft next season, which area do you think the Cardinals need to focus the most on?
Talent.
Okay, I think they really need to have an emphasis, and a lot of people are going to probably disagree with me. I feel like it's going to have to be involved with pitching. I feel like you're going to need to really build up a long-term pitching solution. I feel like it's easier to get or hitters in free agency than it is long-term pitching solutions. So you build the pitchers through the draft, get hitters through free agency, build the foundation, there you go. And I feel like it's been too hit or miss lately with young prospects in the organization when it comes to pitching, and I think this is a chance for them to really right the wrongs on some of the past.
Okay.
So that's just my one. And folks, be sure to say below who you think the Cardinals need to focus on. And James, what about you, my friend?
Well, when it comes to the Cardinals and just looking draft, man, it's tough because you could kind of argue both ways. I mean, right now, obviously, Jordan Walker, Mason Wynn, Team Kent's, their farm system right now is in really good shape. So what I would do is I'm kind of with you, but when it comes to the draft, I'm going to go best available, talent wise. And here's why: because you have guys like Graceffo, you have guys like Matthew Liberatore, who we've seen, Zach Thompson, we've seen. They've got, and I'm guessing they're going to use Team Kent's as a pitcher. Mason Wynn is a shortstop who also pitched in college. So I'm with you. We're going to go pitching here, but I don't want the guy who throws 100 miles per hour. I want the guy who pitches. I want the Adam Wainwright. I want the Jeff Suppan type. I want the Chris Carpenter type. I want guys who pitch, who don't just throw.
You want control over speed.
Thank you. Location, 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 right? Not just real estate. Most important thing in baseball, location, location, location. I want somebody who can paint the corner and, not sure. You throw in the 90s, that's fine, because you're not going to find many guys that are just, punch and Judy pitchers, for the lack of a better term. So I want somebody who throws, because you've got guys like Jordan Hicks. You still have Alex Reyes. You still have Giovanni Gallegos. You still have Ryan Helsley. Like I said, you've got Graceffo down in the minors, who he had a really good Arizona Fall League season. Scouts have said that Jordan Walker is unbelievable when it comes to his talent, and he looks like a top-notch athlete as well. So I think that's where you have to go, is pitching. But here's where I'm going to kind of throw you a curveball, no pun intended. I may take some of those draft picks and really see if I can find, or there are going to be a couple kids, and I say kids, they're in their late 20s, that come out of that are going to be in the international pool. And I may try to finagle a deal, because I know you can't trade pick for pick. This isn't like the NFL or the NHL where you can trade draft picks. But this is where I might try to see if I can move like international money and stuff around and focus on those guys. Because look, we missed out on Luis Robert, who turned out to be just a hell of an athlete. He could hit the ball a country mile. You missed out on some of these international signings. So that may be something to look at, but I'm with you in terms of going out and trying to just get as much depth pitching wise as you can. We've obviously seen that you need it, because we've had nothing but pitching injuries over the last 2-3 years. But it also allows you to build that depth in case you want to make a move to where you either trade a Steven Matz, or, if you don't re-sign Jordan Montgomery, because all but one of your starters are free agents after this coming year. So, and obviously we'll look at free agency and stuff as we get further into the hot stove. But I'm with you. When it comes down to it, you've got to shore up your pitching core.
I do like, before we get to Jared's next comment, I do want to bring up something that Josh sent in. And we hear this every year from John Mozeliak. We hear from those that are reporting on what Mozeliak says. Oh, we're looking to make a big splash in free agency. Oh, this is going to be the year we get that one big name that's going to change the face of the franchise. Don't get me wrong. The thing of it is, and really hear me out on this.
Okay.
Nolan Arenado wasn't as much a huge free agency signing as he was just straight highway robbery from the Colorado Rockies. The fact the Cardinals did not get charged with robbing the Rockies the way they did is a miracle.
Yeah, they got fleeced.
They
Colorado
got fleeced badly. Who are we to argue with it, though? But nevertheless, who are we to argue with that? But if I get what Josh is saying correctly, I feel like he's talking about when he spend some money. We're talking about a guy who wants to spend somebody that's still in their late 20s, maybe middle late 20s, still in the prime, still got a lot in them, and go all out on them. Not spend everything and not trade the entire farm, but at the same time, make it known that you're willing to empty the pockets that Cardinal fans have been putting money into for decades now.
What's the problem with Mo spending money though? Is everybody wants to blame Mo for not getting this person or that person? He's got a boss too. You know, the DeWitts have to be willing to open up the wallet, if you will, and go out and allow Mo to do that. Now, I'm going to play off of one of Josh's comments saying that we need some nastiness. You went exactly where I thought you'd go. I think, matter of fact, I would go as far to say that I would even put a little money on this. I think the Cardinals actually signed Carlos Rodon. I think that they go out and get Rodon from the Giants. And here's why. One, they need somebody who is swing and miss. Carlos Rodon had the highest strikeout percentage rate in the majors this past season. Okay, close to 30%. I think they go out and get him. One, because they need him. Two, he's left-handed. And three, you want nastiness. He is filthy. And that would be a game changer for you. Everybody wants to say, can the Cardinals compete with the Dodgers? Can the Cardinals compete with the Mets? Can the Cardinals compete with the Braves? Can the Cardinals compete with the Phillies? We saw the answer to that is nothing but a resounding no. If you go out and get Carlos Rodon to be the ace of your staff, and Wainwright may be the ace of your staff in name, Rodon will be the ace of your staff in stuff. And I think he's the guy that changes everything. You go out and do that, you put yourself in a really good position to win 100 games and then go from there. You're going to need a catcher. The Cardinals, Mo said that the payroll will go up, and he attributed that to obviously the fans filling the stadium because of the one and only Albert Pujols. So go out, get Rodon, get yourself a catcher, whether it's Contreras, whether it's Sean Murphy from Oakland, whether it's Alejandro Kirk from Toronto. Go out and get yourself a good young catcher because Andrew Kisner ain't the guy. See, we can put people in the right place. That's right. Exactly. It doesn't have to be the biggest name. And that's why I mentioned guys like Sean Murphy. Alejandro Kirk is a good young stud catcher up in Toronto. I know what Toronto wants. They want a left-handed hitting outfielder. Am I at the point where I'm ready to trade Dylan Carlson for a catcher? I don't know, because Carlson he's touch and go. Do I think that Carlson defensively is wonderful? He can't hit right-handed hitting or right-handed pitching. And you're going to face a right-handed pitcher more often than not. So I don't know. I mean, all of these are great comments. I mean, Jared also said, I agree, but I also think they should focus on center field. They have never traded Bader. And see, this is where I'm going. If you trade Carlson, you go out and get yourself a center fielder. Now, here's what I propose to you. Move Lars Nootbaar to center field. The Cardinals played Jordan Walker in the outfield in AAA this year. If he is as good of an athlete and as good of a hitter as he is advertised to be, I put him in right field, and there you go. Because apparently Mo and other scouts, and I'm not just saying Mo. I know that there are a lot of times Cardinals overvalue their draft picks or their prospects. Other scouts, including their AAA scout for the Yankees, compared Jordan Walker to the next generation Albert Pujols. Talk about some big shoes to fill.
It's interesting you bring up about the payroll going up, and Contreras has been the biggest name linked to going to the Cardinals as far as catcher goes. But, we all know Yadier Molina is among the greatest defensive catchers of all time. His hitting it started out terribly sluggish. Eventually he was able to pick it up. Mozeliak has made it clear that they want a guy that's all around skilled. They're not looking for a one-dimensional catcher. And I'm not saying that's what Molina was, but what I'm saying is they are definitely going out of their way to make sure that the guy they get is going to be the guy. And I agree that Kisner has just not shown me anything that makes me believe he is the future. I have rid on the fact that Cardinals should not have gotten rid of Tony Cruz when they did. I will stay on that platform. They gave up on him too quick. Kisner, I feel like they're going to keep him for another year, maybe two, if that. But you get a big enough name or just a big enough talent, because like I said, big talent and big name, two different things.
Oh yeah.
I think a perfect example, Lars Nootbaar. He's not a big name, but he has big time talent, supremely talented.
What do they say in Major League when they're all showing up for spring training? He goes, I thought you didn't have any high priced talent. Well, forget about Dorn because he's only high priced. I mean, so you're right. I mean, just because they've got a big name doesn't mean they're a big player, or vice versa, or a big.
Well, and then you talk about Carlson being, the whole thing about is Carlson got traded, and also people have talked about the same thing with Nolan Gorman. People have always thought about, well, Nolan Gorman has shown some good flashes. Would he be good trade bait?
Yes.
Well, now we got a new hitting coach for the Cardinals, and Nootbaar had a pretty good season. O'Neill struggled, especially because of injuries. Carlson, like you said, couldn't hit right-handed pitching to save his damn life. Add in a lot of injuries. A lot of these young guys just dealt with so many injuries, limited their progress. I mean, it's true that a lot of the Cardinals offense ran through three guys. One of them was the oldest player in Major League Baseball, in Albert Pujols.
We go back
the
to
others were Goldie and Arenado.
Right. And I was saying, go back to last year. Pujols saved your free agency signings because the Cardinals had not done anything. You went out and signed what? Drew Verhagen and Nick Whitgren, and then you end up DFAing one of the guys. So here's the thing. So talking about the new hitting coach. The new hitting coach is Turner Ward. He had a 10-year Major League Baseball career. He's good friends with Paul Goldschmidt. They work together out in Arizona. Excuse me. Dusty Blake is the new pitching coach. When we talked about these firings and the holes to fill, I actually mentioned both those guys. The biggest one is the new bench coach. It's Matt Holliday. So is the new hitting coach going to be a game changer for guys like Carlson and O'Neill? No. Nope, the hitting coach won't be. Matt Holliday will be. Holliday is, if not one of the best hitters ever in Cardinal history, a Cardinal Hall of Famer as of August of this year. So I think that Holliday will help. Holliday and Ollie also have an unbelievable relationship. So do we feel like injuries are because we moved? No. Because Carlson has always been an outfielder, and so has Tyler O'Neill. Here's what I'll say. O'Neill is the absolute definition, the epitome of the three outcomes, with the exception of the fact that he doesn't walk. He either strikes out or he hits a home run. And he strikes out more often than not. Carlson, on the other hand, I don't know. I think this is the idea that the Cardinals overvalue their prospects. Whenever it came down to it, Mo said that he would not trade Carlson or get rid of Carlson because you'd have to pry him out of his debt or his cold dead hands. And Carlson's he's shown signs of being successful, but he's not what you're looking for. You could have packaged him and had Juan Soto. Does that change everything? Yeah, Carlson may have the tools, but does he know how to apply them? I mean, I know how to. I don't know. I think Holliday changes the game for a lot of things, but Holliday's also not one of those guys that's going to sugarcoat it. And I'm not saying Skip Schumacher or anybody did, but I think that, and I think also helps too, is Holliday also has the proven track record. Him and Nolan Arenado are actually really like best friends. So, it's a lot different because you're looking at somebody who was successful. He's a World Series champion. Jeff Albert never played Major League Baseball. He was
I think that was the biggest issue of the entire hiring process I criticize a lot about in the media when they hire former sports players to analyst positions who have no broadcasting experience. That is
Right.
the equivalent of the Cardinals hiring Jeff Albert, a
Right.
guy who's the hitting coach who never played Major League Baseball.
It goes into what
It
I
makes
just
no
said.
sense.
It goes into what I just said about being nothing but a nerd that's digging into numbers. Well, that's fine. I can tell you what I want you to do, and I could say, "Hey, you need to do this at the plate." But if I've never done it myself, I have absolutely no. I have no credibility. I can sit there and tell you, okay, so when you get up there, make sure you stay back. Get your. What the hell does that mean? You sit there, look at a guy that's hitting 159 on the year and going, well, you need to change, this and that. You need to keep your hands. What? You've never done it before. Shut the hell up. Go away. And I'm sure that happened a lot. It's like the Cardinals allowed Jeff Albert to come in. He changed their hitting system and the organization from top to bottom with the way he did things, which is all sabermetrics and all numbers and everything else. And boom, now he's gone. You bring in Turner Ward. You've got guys like Matt Holliday. I really think, and Dusty Blake was a pitcher in the Cardinals organization before anybody asks. He actually does have pitching experience. He's not just a nerd, when it comes down to it, that's only looking at numbers. But it's kind of hard to have any credibility that you've never done it before. Sounds like the Colts hiring Jeff Saturday. We'll get to that in just a second.
Yeah,
that's actually a really good point. So just to tie a big bow on it, we're going to talk more and more and more about the Cardinals as we get, through the hot stove, because obviously I hate winter. I hate not having professional baseball. I know even if the Astros would have won Game 7, I would have given anything to have a Game 7 in that World Series. But wrong team won.
I was going to say,
what can you do?
Well, speaking of which, Josh, you got some experience to go ahead.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's right. We both played the game, and
yeah,
I mean, you could hire me to be your pitching coach. Now, I was notorious for giving up balls that would land 400 feet later, but
I thought
at least I was there.
I know my old high school needs a hurdling coach apparently, and shit, I hurdled in high school. So anyway, district twice, I'll take it.
There you go.
At like 5'4", 5'5", but back then I'll take it. So
Josh was my favorite catcher to throw to. Unfortunately, it didn't happen enough, but he was my favorite catcher to throw to.
There you go. Well, folks, okay, now it is time, and we thank you so much. Keep on submitting your questions.
I'll tell you what, I'm digging the interaction tonight. This may be and Josh actually umpired with me too. When I started umpiring, Josh and I got our start together. So we used to have tick marks underneath the Build-A-Bar cap on how many coaches we threw out.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, man. And days the Monte Carlo of driving 100 miles per hour. We won't go into that, but I'll tell you what.
That's like some post-game deleted scenes, extra edition stuff right there.
Oh, Josh and I got into a lot more trouble than what we need to lead on, but I'll tell you what, I'm digging the interaction tonight. This may be the most interaction we've had in a long time. Yeah, 13 in one season.
Much.
That's because Patterson's a fat ass. Never mind. Anyway, next.
It is time, folks, to really transition as we pass the half-hour mark here on Roundabout Sports, as we transition into the NFL and all of the wonderful stuff. And you know what? We're going to start exactly with what Jack's History was talking about earlier, and that is about the Indianapolis Colts hiring Jeff Saturday. Jeff Saturday, for those that don't know, longtime center, one of the greatest offensive linemen of the past 25 years. Definitely, multiple-time Pro Bowler. He does have coaching experience, but this is where
he has a losing record. His last season coaching high school was a losing record. He went 3-7.
He went from Hebron Christian Academy from 2017 to 2020 as their head coach, and but he was undrafted by the Ravens in 1998. Only stayed on their practice squad. Signed with the Colts in 99. And meanwhile, and we see the interaction. Yep, the NFL is a joke this season so far. And we'll be talking about soon about the midseason awards that James and I have our opinion midseason awards, I should say.
Look at the comment next one down. That's my favorite one right there.
Saturday is no Sunday. Oh God. Okay.
That's really good.
Yeah. Well, okay. Where did this all come from? Here it is. Frank Reich of the Indianapolis Colts got fired because Indianapolis has absolutely sucked. We're not going to sugarcoat it. We're not going to lie to you. The Colts have not been good. They benched Matt Ryan when they really shouldn't have. And this is coming from a guy that likes Sam Ellinger. All right. I liked him when he was in Texas. I was excited to see what he could do. Offense has been non existent. Jonathan Taylor, top 3 running back in the NFL, been hurt majority of this year.
Yep.
There's just no flow with this team. Offensive linemen have been taking a beating. I mean, Ryan and Ellinger have been sacked more than the majority of the quarterbacks in the NFL. It's been a long time, Jared. Honestly, they haven't been. It's been a while since they've been really good, and it's a shame because I feel like they're wasting the talents of Jonathan Taylor.
They
and Michael
certainly are.
Pittman.
They certainly are. And I mean, what, Darius Leonard or whatever he wants to be called now?
Shaq Fu Leonard.
Well, the funny thing is, and being like kind of boots on the ground and living in this area, like, so obviously this is big Colts country when it comes down to it. The firing of Frank Reich was welcome. But I don't think anybody expected Jeff Saturday to be that guy. I mean, and I've got a question for you here in just a minute, Jeremy, because this all leads to something.
Okay.
The answer, he says, do the Colts even have an OC? We'll get into that in just a minute too. So it's interesting because Saturday gets the job. Irsay comes out and says, hopefully it's more than just this year. So here's my question for you, Jeremy. If you are an offensive coordinator, a quarterback coach, a defensive coordinator, whatever else, and you've been busting your ass to get to this level, and you get overlooked by a guy who just 7 days ago was an analyst on NFL Sunday Countdown instead of being in that organization, how do you feel? Like, there's no way in hell, me personally, that if I got overlooked for a guy who has no coaching experience at this level, am I going to come back to that organization? I would feel slighted. Your thoughts?
I mean, it's almost like answering a question with a question here because, you know, it kind of actually ties back into the thing about imagine if you're a broadcaster who's gone through college all these years in journalism school, has had to take out so many loans or do all this stuff. And then, hey, look, here's a guy that is a backup
Tom Brady.
quarterback.
We'll pay you $33 million to come in and be an analyst for Fox when you have absolutely no broadcasting experience.
But the thing of it is, it's not even Tom Brady in this equation. There could be a guy that's played 5 games and they would still hire him because he was on the field.
The funny thing is, and Jack's history makes a good point. He said he laughed when Saturday said in his press conference, and I quote, he looked at Jim Irsay and said, "How am I qualified for this job? Why did you pick me?" Well, hell, if you've got to ask the guy who hired you that question, then you shouldn't be in the position.
The reason they hired Jeff Saturday was a PR move.
Of course it was.
But this is the thing, because Jeff Saturday, one of the top, like I said, one of the top offensive linemen past 25 years, and Super Bowl champion. We've seen the infamous video of him and Peyton Manning getting into an argument about running the ball, and when Jeff Saturday's telling him what they should do, and Peyton Manning just cusses him out.
You quit calling the plays,
Yeah, and which is ironic because now look who's going to be taking care of it.
Well, hell, he might as well bring in Peyton Manning as the offensive coordinator then.
No, because I like the Manning cast. No,
well, I do too, but still.
But no. Anyway, the reason and folks, like I said, Jeff Saturday's with the team for a long time before he went to Green Bay. But this is a PR move because there's been so much turmoil within the Colts organization. There has been so much bad press. Frank Reich, the locker room, it just amazes me how much dissension there is.
Oh, God, yes.
So they bring in a fan favorite. They bring in a guy that the fans are going to get behind, at the very least, just because of his name and what he's done for the team. They're not going to give a crap about what he may have or may not have done as a coach anywhere. They're going to be like, man, look, we got our old boy Jeff Saturday back. Let's do this. You know, Colt up.
But how much lipstick can you put on a pig?
Right. Like there's at some point, and there's another, and this ties into another thing I wanted to bring up. Okay. For years now, and we've talked about this in past episodes, the whole thing about the Rooney Rule during offseason about having to hire or having to interview at least a minority candidate. There's a lot of minority candidates out there who are, if you will, on the coaching free agent block, because in a way, just like there are player free agents, there are coaching free agents. There's a bunch of guys out there who are waiting, and even women who are qualified to be coaching in the NFL.
I agree with
that are waiting to be hired. And instead, here, Jeff Saturday's on there on ESPN. We'll just bring him over. And it's not us bashing Jeff Saturday as a guy. It is us bashing the situation of bringing in a coach with no experience that would qualify for an NFL head coaching gig. You do not get bigger in football than the NFL. So to go from Hebron Christian Academy, this is not like Nick Saban. If you were to leave Alabama, which I know would maybe cause you to have a stroke, from leaving Alabama and going back to coaching the Dolphins or something. No, this is literally just picking up a former player, an alumni, and saying, hey, let's turn this ship right around. The problem is the ship's the Titanic and it's already been sinking this season.
Right. That'd be like you going to coach football at Lindenwood, or me going and coaching at SIU Carbondale.
Exactly.
Going back.
We played football for so long, but that doesn't qualify us for a damn thing.
Right.
That's the thing. Just because you've played the game doesn't mean you fully know the game.
Right.
And that goes for any sport. Jeff Albert, we were talking about in the previous segment, perfect example right there.
Right. I agree. Well, you look here too, it's like, Jack's history makes a good point. He goes, it's bad when Pat McAfee was shocked about the hire, and he was. I mean, hell, if you want to coach, you wanted to bring in somebody to coach, bring in it'd be the same as hiring a Pat McAfee. I mean,
that would be fun though. I'll tell you.
That's true. Very true. God, those press conferences would be something else. But I mean, it's weird. I mean, they had Tony Dungy obviously coached, in Indianapolis. So did Caldwell, like Jim Caldwell. He coached there as well. So they've hired minority coaches before. But it is a PR stunt, and it is a big slap in the face to whether you're a minority, whether you're a female, whether you're somebody who's been out there waiting for a coaching job. Like I said, and then he promotes his young quarterbacks coach to be his offensive coordinator. It's going to be interesting because this Colts team, they are still in second place in the AFC South. Do I think they'll make the playoffs? Hell no. Do I think this is going to be bad? I can't wait to see this dumpster fire because who do they have this weekend? Who do the Colts play this weekend?
I mean, the Colts this weekend, they play I believe the Raiders. Yeah, they play the Vegas Raiders in Vegas, 3:05 p.m. So
Jared says,
though. Oh, go ahead.
So Jared says the NFL is folding. No. The NFL's making $9 billion a year.
The NFL is not going anywhere, but the thing, because this is how I look at it from Jared's perspective. So it says all their must-see teams that brings in the most money have been slowly falling down. Okay, I do agree with that. Who have been usually the big money makers in the NFL the past few years? The Rams. Look where the Rams are at.
The Buccaneers.
The Buccaneers. Look where the Bucs are at. The Steelers. Look where the Steelers are at. The Patriots. Look where the Patriots are at. Because meanwhile, these are some of the teams. Here's some of the teams that are at the top. The Jets. The Giants.
The Philadelphia.
The Eagles. Yeah, the Eagles.
Minnesota.
Minnesota is, and there's another one, the Green Bay Packers, normally a big moneymaker. And look what they're at now. Even like, hell, I'm drawing a big fat blank here.
Teams like Seattle and San Francisco, even though we're used to seeing them at the top, they are there this year. So here's the thing. It's probably a Colts matchbook giveaway. They'll still ask who's got the lighter. So, I mean, and it's funny, Jags history makes another good point, saying Saturday made fun of the Raiders after losing to the Jags last Sunday, and now he has to coach against them. Look, the Raiders, I'm telling you now.
It's funny if he lost this one.
Well, and Devontae Adams and Derek Carr were obviously not on the same page. They were barking at each other during that Jaguars game too. You're right. I think the Raiders beat the Colts this weekend. But, all in all, and I know we need to move on to actual games and outcomes. This is going to be just a mess in Indianapolis. And, this is one of those things where we look at the Colts, and that's a very winnable division, or it should be, because the only good team, if you want to call the Titans good, I mean, they did take the Chiefs to overtime. But all in all, I mean, that's one of those divisions where any year, any of those teams could win with the exception of the Houston Texans. And even they're better than what I think anybody thought they would be. And the Jaguars, right, and their Jaguars are on their way up. So, yeah, it's interesting.
This is how I look at it. As long as Malik Willis is the starting quarterback of the Titans, I don't take him seriously, because even though Derrick Henry is the only reason the Titans are where they're at. Yep. And everybody knows it, because guess what? It's a good thing they did. Let me tell you something. Credit to the defense of the Titans for last Sunday night.
Yep.
Because the Kansas City Chiefs ran over 90 offensive plays, had the ball for over 41 minutes. Now, and yes, this includes overtime, but let me make this clear. Football is a 60-minute game. If you have to be on the field stopping Patrick Mahomes for 41 minutes, and you only hold him to 17 points, to 20 points.
It's pretty damn impressive.
That is really impressive, because Mahomes has done a lot worse damage at a lot less time.
Agreed. Yep.
The fact, but Malik Willis, no Titans receiver caught a pass.
Yeah.
No. Now think about that. Imagine going to overtime in a game where none of your receivers caught a pass. Yes, tight ends did, but none of the main receivers did.
Yeah.
Tannehill needs to get back for that team's sake, and
for
the sake of Mike Vrabel. But
yeah.
Speaking of NFL, we have reached the halfway point here in the NFL 2022 season. And I'm not going to lie, James, it feels like just last week we were doing our prediction show for the overall season.
Which we failed miserably.
It's
been ugly.
Our predictions have definitely been the exact opposite of what they've turned out to be. Just for the record, folks, I predicted the Giants would go 3-14, and I'll forever, say I was wrong on that one.
Yeah, well, I predicted the Colts. I predicted the Colts to win the AFC South. So
we just spent the past 15 minutes talking about how shitty their situation is.
No doubt.
But I do like quick side note, Josh does say go XFL, which yes, call is still the law, baby.
Good call.
I love it. All right. So mid-season awards. First, James, we're gonna go to the most valuable player. Who do you have as your most valuable player so far, halfway through the season?
Well, I mean, it's tough because you always look at quarterbacks first, because I mean that's obviously where the MVP is going to come from, and really this year, MVP wise, I hate to be Mr. Predictable, but I believe it has to go to Patrick Mahomes.
Really?
You took away Tyreek Hill, which was his most explosive weapon. And the Chiefs are still playing extremely well. That offense doesn't look like it's missed a beat. So when it comes down to it, yeah, Patrick Mahomes is my NFL MVP.
So obviously this can change. So Patrick Mahomes has had a couple really rough games this year. But other than that, he has been as phenomenal as he always has been. I feel like if it's not a 350-yard game from Mahomes, it's considered a disappointment.
It's because he set the bar so high.
That's what I'm saying. Like for him, the bar, you talk about the bar being low. The bar is so high for Patrick Mahomes, it's above Arrowhead's roof.
I was going to say,
not roof, but stadium.
Look, Patrick Mahomes has set the bar so high, even Snoop Dogg goes, damn.
Well, it's fun. It's funny because I feel like Mahomes is in his 6th season, and once again, I don't know why time just flies so fast, because
I know,
and he also doesn't age. I'll tell you that. Like, oh my gosh. Now, meanwhile, you got your back-to-back MVP winner, Aaron Rodgers, who's absolutely sucking it up this year. Aaron, who done messed up.
Y'all say you done messed up, Aaron.
Done messed up. Aaron Rodgers has not played well this year. And it doesn't help, in his defense, it doesn't help that he's thrown to a bunch of bad news Bears wide receivers over here.
Right. Amari Rodgers.
Because Devontae Adams is gone.
He gone.
Alan Lazard is basically the new number one. Romeo Dobbs hurt. Randall Cobb hurt. Christian Watson hurt. Sammy Watkins hurt. I mean,
but I love it.
Aaron Jones is hurt, but he's expected to play this week.
I'd love to see Aaron Rodgers fail, though.
Yeah, I prefer the injuries not happen. All right, this is who I am going with as my MVP. And a lot of people people that know me especially are going to find this very, very surprising. I'm going with the man who has been disrespected by his own organization, and that's Lamar Jackson.
Okay.
And I'm going to tell you why. Okay, Lamar Jackson, I can't get my words out. The Ravens are 5-3, winners of 3 straight. Jackson's been without Mark Andrews the past couple of games. Rashad Bateman's out for the season. J.K. Dobbins is out a few weeks.
Yep.
Jackson has absolutely put the team on his back more than he ever has before. And, Devin Duvernay is his number one target.
Yep.
Isaiah Likely's finally getting some looks because he really has no choice in the matter.
Right.
The biggest disrespect what I was talking about by his own organization was that they didn't feel, don't get me wrong, I'm not always on the side of when it comes to these players getting these huge, massive contracts. But you can't sit there and tell me that Lamar Jackson does not deserve to get big-time money guaranteed.
I think it hurts him that he's his own agent. I really feel like the fact that he represents himself probably hurts him more so than helps him in the long run.
But at the same time, it also shows that he knows everything is straight up. He doesn't have to worry about something happening behind the scenes. And a lot of players in the NFL and other sports leagues have themselves as their own representation.
I agree.
Because of that same exact reason. And I do understand that could very well be a reason. But at the same time, we talk about how much money Deshaun Watson got or is guaranteed.
What a joke.
And we talk about Lamar Jackson. I mean, it was similar to that deal. He was similar to the Deshaun Watson deal. But the only difference is Ravens wouldn't give him that much guaranteed money. And look, as talented as I think Deshaun Watson is, and most people know how talented he is.
Yeah.
Lamar Jackson is more deserving of that. In my opinion, he's one of the best. He is the best dual threat quarterback since Michael Vick, and he is chasing down every record Michael Vick has when it comes to it.
Right. I mean, and I agree with you 100% there. Sorry about that. I think when it comes down to it, I mean, he bet on himself. The only thing that would worry me there is the fact that, you're talking about worrying about injury. But I mean, when it comes down to it,
go ahead.
No, you're fine. I was going to say, I just think that, I mean, that's hard to argue, and it's going to sound terrible. I don't know why I didn't think of Lamar Jackson.
There is one niche in the whole thing that works against Lamar Jackson when it comes to the contract. The franchise tag.
Oh yeah.
Ravens can tag him for 2 years, and there's not a damn thing Lamar can do about it. Unless he wants to go full on Le'Veon Bell, but ain't no way that's gonna happen.
No.
So, and folks, tell us who you think who should be MVP and offensive player, defensive player as we go around these awards. So James has Patrick Mahomes as MVP for so far through the halfway point. I got Lamar Jackson. The AFC has obviously really been just killer offensively this year.
Yep.
So now we come to the offensive player of the year. Now, historically, most people will put the MVP and the offensive player of the year together if they're both the same position. But this year, I'm just – you know what? You go first on this one. You go first on this, James.
I don't wanna. Geez, this is a tough one too. I mean, you think about it. Offensive player of the year, like, I feel like the offensive player of the year is Jalen Hurts and what he's doing in Philadelphia. I mean, For the longest time, nobody thought Jalen Hurts could throw the ball. He is a running quarterback, and that's all he is. It's the same knock that Lamar Jackson got for the longest
Exactly.
time when he came out of the University of Louisville. Oh, he can't throw the ball. Look, Jalen Hurts, if you weren't a believer before, you should be now. The kid's got a rocket of an arm. He can run. We saw that at the University of Alabama and at the University of Oklahoma. So my offensive player of the year, I believe, is Jalen Hurts, the quarterback of the undefeated Philadelphia Eagles.
So I have a couple players in mind, and I feel like both are, once again, both of these guys are good AFC players, 2 different positions, and they far exceeded expectations. Although both are elite players, it still amazes me. First off, we're going to go with Tyreek Hill, wide receiver on the Dolphins.
No doubt.
Tyreek has helped change the course of the Dolphins and has given Tua new life, has given Jalen Waddle new life, because now he doesn't have to be the only true weapon on the team.
Same thing for Mike Gesicki, yeah.
Yeah, and Mike Gesicki isn't the only inside guy. Tyreek Hill brings a lot of defensive backs away from everybody else, opens up the field, spreads the ball out. And Tua, when he's not hurt, has been electric. He's in itself like a candidate for all this.
I've got a stat for you that will blow your mind.
Okay.
The Dolphins and Tua Tagovailoa are undefeated in games in which he starts and he finishes.
Wow. That's crazy to think about. And given like the circumstances that have happened this year. So there you go. So Tyreek Hill is my first choice.
Okay.
My second choice is the current NFL rushing yardage leader, and definitely somebody who barely missed. His rookie year, he almost got 1,000 yards, but then he got he rushed for like a negative gain or something, so he got down to 9.96.
Okay.
And that's Nick Chubb of the Cleveland Browns.
I knew that's where you were going. For some reason, I knew that's where you were going.
I know. It's weird, Evan. It's definitely bad for the winter months, I'll tell you that much, but it does feel nice being a little clean.
He's got time. He's got time to grow it back.
Oh, yeah. Anyway, yes, Nick Chubb. And I'm telling you right now, he leads the NFL in rushing yardage. And I believe he also leads them in offensive touchdowns as well. So right now he leads, we're heading into week 9, and he has 841 yards, an average of 5.6 yards a carry, 10 touchdowns, and 149 attempts.
I mean,
come on now.
If I was going to pick another one, I could have gone with Cooper Kupp too. I know that sounds like a misnomer because the Rams are 3-5. But
okay, I'm glad you mentioned that.
He's on pace to break the all-time receptions record in a season.
I'm so glad you brought that up because, okay, this actually, believe it or not, don't remember the last time a wide receiver won MVP, but hear me out on this. You as a Rams fan would definitely know this. You've seen how Matt Stafford's played this year.
Yep.
Without Cooper Kupp, so take out all the stats.
I've seen this. Go ahead.
Matt Stafford would have 1,115 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions this year.
Crazy, isn't it?
How do you not consider him for MVP level and offensive player of the year when that is literally your offense?
Yep.
When your offense revolves around Cooper Kupp. Allen Robinson hasn't done much. Tyler Higbee hasn't done much. Don't even get me started on the run game. I know I don't want to get you started on the run game. So, yeah, the offense goes through Cooper Kupp. And Stafford knows that. So, and Josh just sent in J.J. Watt as another one, having a good resurgence down in Arizona. I mean, but granted, that's for defense, so we'll be getting to that later. So there's a lot of potential candidates. It's been an offensive juggernaut of a season all across the board. Um, and so, and Evan brings up the point about how much value is all of that worth when it's not equaling wins.
Not a damn thing, because if you look at statistically speaking, Tom Brady should be in the MVP talk. But
I mean, he's my MVP just because of what he did to the Rams.
Jeremy, I almost made me say something I would never say to you, and I almost said it. Anyway, you're right. It doesn't. But that's why, I mean, here's the thing. I mean, if you take Cooper Kupp off the Rams, we always talk about it's the most valuable player, and this, take him off that team, and we do not have a win.
No, of course not. You're lucky. I mean, and that's the thing. Like,
and if you were to take Nick Chubb, I'm sorry. If you were to take Chubb off of the Browns, I mean, you guys struggle mightily as well.
Exactly. We'd be fortunate to have Kareem. We're fortunate we still got Kareem Hunt, but even then, Nick,
right.
The offense is built, especially with Jacoby Brissett, who's done solid enough job, but the offense runs, no pun intended. Well, yeah, pun intended, runs through Nick Chubb.
I wish we had a running back like him in LA. I'm not even
well, it's not even just that. It's the fact that the Browns have the top graded offensive line too.
Well, Jack's history goes, what do you think about Ramsey throwing shade at the offense? Somebody fucking needs to. I mean, that's my exact, you want to know? That's how I feel. You know, I mean, if we talk about Cooper Kupp being an MVP, but here's the problem. If he doesn't slide and stay in bounds and tries to get the first down, we may beat that. Tampa had no timeouts left. I don't, what do I think about him throwing shade at the offense? Why not? Everybody else is fucking doing it.
Well, here's the comment that a lot of people can resonate with. When the Rams left STL, they became dead to me. Look, I will say this.
And I've made.
I am happy that Johnny Hecker won a Super Bowl.
Right,
but
Aaron Donald,
and Aaron Donald, but
it's not. I can't stand the owner. I still, the players. That's separate from the owner.
Okay.
What do I think about Ramsey throwing shade at the offense? I'm glad somebody is.
All right. Well, with that, we go to speaking of defensive players, let's go to the defensive player of the year. And James, I'll start. Why is it Micah Parsons?
That's what I was getting ready to say. I was going to say Micah Parsons is my player.
Come on.
My defensive player of the year. How's it not?
This is the thing. In the 1990s, what were the Cowboys best known for? Their offense.
Mm-hmm. Aikman, Emmitt Smith, Alvin Harper, Michael Irvin.
I mean,
Jay Novacek. Yeah.
The Great Wall of Dallas. You know, I mean, this team was an offensive juggernaut. Right now, I mean, their defense is really stepping up. Yeah. And it's ironic because normally when you talk about a leader, you think about a guy that's a lot older. The leader of this defense is 23 years old, and his name is Micah Parsons.
Well,
they
said they got a stud at every level. You got Parsons on the defensive line. You've got Leighton Vander Esch as a middle linebacker, and then you've got Trayvon Diggs at the back end. They are loaded. And the thing is the thing that holds that team back is their $33 million quarterback, Dak Prescott.
Well, it's funny because they got Micah Parsons has 8 sacks already. Mm-hmm. He's got a fumble return for a touchdown. Mm-hmm. And he's already got 36 combined tackles in 8 games. He's played in 8 games. And he's deflected 2 passes. He's missed a couple interceptions. He's come so close. And
I know.
I'm telling you right now, like, it goes without saying. And there's some guys in there you could also throw in. If TJ Watt didn't get hurt, he would still be in the running. But TJ Watt got hurt. He's expected back this week. I know Myles Garrett had dealt with some nagging issues. He's back at it. And then, JJ Watt's had a good year. But at the same time, like, let's see who else you got. You know what? I'm going to throw in another guy. And I know we're eventually going to talk about defensive rookies.
Yeah,
I'm going to throw one in there. Aiden Hutchinson.
Yeah.
Aiden Hutchinson. Yeah. Look, the Lions, it amazes. I like them, but I wish they would win more because it amazes me.
Right. You talk about teams that are so much better than their record.
Detroit is. They have so much talent.
I'd like to have Jared Goff back in LA, man. Right now, the way and Stafford's in concussion protocol, so we're going to start some. I'm not even watching the damn game this weekend.
You already know you are.
No, I'm not.
Okay.
No, I'm tired of losing,
Okay.
Jeremy. Damn.
You are talking to a guy that literally went through a winless season. Do you know how many losses I've watched since Tim Couch was the quarterback? And
I'm gonna have to go through like sports rehab, dude. Come on, man.
Okay, but keep in mind, this is adding in the losses that the Rams were having at the same time. So while I'm dealing with the Browns going 4-12 in 2008, I'm also dealing with the Rams going 3-13 because they went to 2-14 that year.
So my Rams are what, 3-5? And my favorite college football team got beat by freaking Tennessee and then get beat by LSU. My college football team, I'm used to them playing for championships.
Okay, I'm going to tell you something. I can give you the thing about the Rams. I will never feel bad for you about Alabama losing.
Whatever.
I will never. And look, I got a lot of love for you, but I'm going to tell you right now, I will not feel bad for you for Alabama losing. That was one of the most glorious moments I've seen in a long time was that LSU game.
Jeremy, you're off my Christmas card list.
It's fine because I'm Jewish, so what do I care? I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit.
No Hanukkah cards for you. All right, go to the defensive player of the year.
Next up, folks. Thanks for tuning in to Roundabout Sports. All right, yeah, there we go.
Oh
Josh has a perfect bet. I'm willing to put in on that.
I can have Jeremy's. Oh my God! Oh,
this is great. One of the best.
Wow.
So, all right, so we're now on the Offensive Rookie of the Year. We've gone through MVP, Offensive Player, and Defensive Player of the Year in our predictions at the midseason awards here on Roundabout Sports. And we're on the Offensive Rookie of the Year. And I'll kick us off. I think if there's one guy who definitely came out of left field. First off, I'm going to say right now, he doesn't get hurt. It's 100% Breece Hall.
Yeah.
Breece Hall will be the Rookie of the Year if he did not get hurt. And it breaks my heart he did. And while I think Dameon Pierce is really good and has a good shot, I'm going Kenneth Walker III on this.
Oh, boy.
And
that's a good one.
And we're going to get back to Seattle later. But Kenneth Walker III, if there was anybody we expected, I mean, he's got 111 attempts, 570 yards, 5.1 average per carry, and 7 touchdowns. And once again, who did I basically pick to be last this year? I predicted Seattle was going to be last in division because there was nothing that gave me evidence they were going to be the way they are right now. So, here we go. Let's see this. Can I choose? Russell Wilson is my failed Rookie of the Year. No, Jared, but you can definitely, if you wanted to nominate Russell Wilson as the failed trade of the year, you go for it, and I will 100% go for that. Anyway, James, go on.
So in terms of Offensive Rookie of the Year, the odds, the current odds, Kenneth Walker has the slight edge over Dameon Pierce at plus 100, Dameon Pierce at plus 175, Chris Olave at plus 700. Then you've got Garrett Wilson, who's plus 2,000, and Brian Robinson Jr., the running back at Washington, plus 2,800. So, I mean, I think you're at the point where I'm kind of with you. It's got to be Kenneth Walker III. Boy, I knew who he was, but I had no clue he was going to have the impact he's had. And with the injuries that the Seahawks have had in the running back course to Rashad Penny, I mean, these guys, you get him healthy and you got Kenneth Walker as well. It's really a nice two-headed monster that you have in the backfield to help complement Geno Smith.
Absolutely. So with that, we go to the Defensive Rookie of the Year. And
yes,
I'm going to let you go first because I am almost guaranteeing that I'm going to have the same pick as you.
Man, who doesn't love the sauce? It's got to be Sauce. It's got to be Sauce Gardner with the Jets. Who does not love Sauce Gardner? Kid has got the swag. He's a hell of a player. He showed up. Boy, did he show up in that game last weekend against the Buffalo Bills. My goodness. Sauce defensively took over that game.
Yeah, he has locked down some of the top wide receivers in the NFL this season. And, I mean, he's putting up elite corner-like numbers. And by that, I mean elite corner numbers, as in he's not allowing anything his way.
Right.
You know, we live in an era when it comes to football where the reason players of old got all the flashy stats and interceptions and everything is because quarterbacks wouldn't mind throwing the ball their way and seeing what happens. Nowadays, look at Darrelle Revis, one of the best corners of all time. Doesn't have
Revis
many
Island.
interceptions. Yeah, why does he not have many interceptions? The quarterback said, "Screw this, we ain't throwing your way."
Yep.
And Sauce Gardner,
don't test me.
And their only reason they still do this with Sauce Gardner is because he's a rookie, but he's already playing at an elite level as a rookie. And, you know, Josh says the Sauce is drying them out. He really is. And Sauce Gardner is a massive reason that the New York Jets are where they're at this season.
They'll go to the playoffs too. Watch.
Like you and I talked about before the show. Did either of us expect them to beat Buffalo? No. Not especially, you know.
No, don't tell everybody that. Jeremy, you're supposed to tell them that we had the Jets going to the playoffs, bro.
Oh, hush.
I think we had them going like 4-13.
Yeah. Let me tell you something. If your team is in New York, well, the only New York team we had doing anything was the Bills.
The Yankees.
The Jets and Giants wouldn't do shit because they never do.
The Jets and Giants aren't New York. They play in New Jersey. They're playing East Rutherford, New Jersey.
I'm not gonna lie. I can't tell you how tired I get of hearing that crap.
I know,
but it is true. But I still get tired of hearing it. They're not called the East Rutherford Jets. They're called the New York Jets. Damn it. Okay. Nevertheless, yes, Sauce Gardner is our pick.
Got to be
now,
Sauce.
We got 2 more awards to go through here. We got Comeback Player of the Year and Coach of the Year. So we'll start with Comeback Player of the Year, and we might have different ones on this. So
go ahead. You go first.
I'm going to go first on this, and I'm going to start with the man who hasn't really had a spectacular career. A lot of people expected more out of him. Didn't expect much out of him this year because they didn't think he'd be in this position. And yet he comes in, takes a team nobody thought would go anywhere, especially after losing their franchise QB. And right now they're pushing for the playoffs. And that is the Seattle Seahawks. And my Comeback Player of the Year nominee so far halfway is quarterback Geno Smith.
Right. I'm with you. It's hard to disagree there. I mean, Geno Smith, drafted by the aforementioned Jets that we were talking about. He's kind of bounced around the NFL, but he's always been good enough to be a backup. It's hard to disagree with you. I mean, Geno Smith has the Seattle Seahawks in first place in the NFC West, and we thought that the Rams would win that division. We had Seattle, I think, third. We had them neck and neck with San Francisco, but I think we had them third. Nobody expected Seattle to do what they've done, and Geno Smith has been outstanding leading that team.
Keep in mind, this is we are entering week 9.
It's still hard to believe that.
And I'm sorry, we're entering week 10, I believe.
Yep.
Yeah, we're entering week 10. So we were in week 9.
Mm-hmm.
But entering week 10, and Geno Smith already has more touchdown passes in this season with 15 than he's had in any other season in his entire career.
Yep.
The most he had before was 12, and that was was 13, and that was in 2014 with the Jets.
Yep.
Now, before this, he has 15 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. He only had 2 other years where he had a positive ratio. Last year, when he had 5 touchdowns and 1 pick with the Seahawks, and then in 2015 when he had 2 touchdowns and 1 pick with the Jets, and that was just in 1 game. So, yeah, the amount of the remarkable comeback he's had, he's at 2,200 passing yards basically. So he's already creeping up on his career high there. So yeah, right there, I'm going with Geno Smith for my Comeback Player of the Year pick. Honorable mention, Saquon Barkley.
Yeah, hard to disagree with either one of those.
And yeah, Jack's history makes it clear. Geno was very solid for him.
Came very close to beating the Rams last year.
Yeah, and when Russell Wilson got traded, people thought Drew Lock was just going to take over, but no, Drew Lock once again. And then look at Geno Smith now taking the Seahawks sort of the top, I guess.
Yep.
Which brings us to our final award for the midseason awards here as we enter week 10. And that is Coach of the Year. There are so many we can pick.
Yep.
But we can only pick one.
Who you got?
I am going to. So Jared says Nick Sirianni.
It's hard to argue with Nick Sirianni. Very good coach. He obviously has the Eagles up 8-0.
It is very hard to argue.
He's not mine, though.
That. He's not mine either. And I'm going to tell you why.
Oh, okay.
Because heading into this season, the Eagles were expected to do good. They weren't expected. Don't get me wrong. We're not saying that they were expected to go 8-0, but
we both of us did pick the Eagles to win the NFC East.
We did. And we expected the Eagles. They're a well-oiled machine, got a lot of great playmakers in the offseason, had a great draft. I mean, the Eagles are just well-built. Oh, hell no, Josh. Not a chance. Not a chance. Not Jeff Saturday. No. I'm going with Brian Daboll.
Brian Daboll in New York with the Giants, yeah.
With the Giants. And I'm going to tell you why. Brian Daboll for the New York Giants. Yep, Jags history got it. And I'll tell you why. Because he's doing more than just winning games. He's changing the culture there.
Okay.
The Giants have been terrible the past few years. And everybody's made him out to be a laughingstock. Hell, I made him out to be a laughingstock on our prediction show.
True.
And why not? Because they have been. And then from the moment that Daboll went for 2 against the Titans in week 1,
yep,
you knew something was up. And he made it clear in his postgame he was going to change the culture. He didn't care. People don't realize one of the most underrated things regarding a head coach is if you go for 2, it means you trust your players enough to get it done.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean you don't trust your defense. You just trust your offense enough. He trusts his players on offense and defense. And given now everything that's gone on with the team still over the past year or so, especially in their wide receiver group where, Galladay, Robinson, Tony, you don't know who's playing and what's going on. And Danny Dimes is having a career year right now. The Giants have quietly made their way into the NFC playoff race.
Right.
And they are not far out of reach of the division because last I checked, they were 6-2.
Yep.
So yeah, Daboll's my pick and honestly, if I'm going with somebody else, I'm going with the other New York coach.
And that's who my pick is. I am picking Robert Saleh, the head coach of the New York Jets. Sure, they had a good draft. You had Breece Hall. The team got off to a great start. Breece Hall goes down, but yet they still figured out a way to beat the Buffalo Bills this past weekend. Zach Wilson did not have a great game. Michael Carter and James Robinson ran the ball well, but it was defensively. Robert Saleh is a defensive-style coach. He was the defensive coordinator under Kyle Shanahan in San Francisco before taking the Jets job. He's just a good coach. He's a great motivator. And, Robert Saleh said, he goes, look, we beat a very good team in the other locker room. He goes, but we believe that we can beat anybody. And they just went out and beat, at that point in time, going into that game, the team that was overall the Super Bowl favorite. And they shut down Josh Allen in that offense. So for my midway coach of the year candidate and winner, I would have to pick Robert Saleh, the head coach of the New York Jets.
All right. Folks, that'll do it for our midseason awards segment on the show here on Roundabout Sports. Thank you so much for listening to that. We're going to transition now to one more. Before we get into our wrestling talk, there's one more thing in football I do want to bring up. James, you had mentioned it earlier that the Kansas City Chiefs beat the Titans in overtime on Sunday night.
Right.
Titans gave them hell, but ultimately not having an experienced offense did them in. But at the same time, you've seen a lot more mistakes from the Chiefs this year than usual.
Right.
And look, Travis Kelce's still the best tight end in the league. I've said it to my friends before, top 3 tight end all time, and I have no shame saying that. But what is it about the Chiefs this year that honestly people can look at them and say, yeah, they're pretty vulnerable.
I don't know. I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that, you know, when you look at their offense, you know, I think the rest of the league is starting to catch up with them. I don't think it's any different than, you know, what's happening to Alabama in college football. You know, you're seeing there's a lot of parity in the league. And when you're on top of the mountain for so long, the hardest thing to do is to continue to stay on top. And I think it's just really, when it comes down to it, the simplicity of it is the fact that, you know, just that other teams and defensive coordinators are figuring out their offense and figuring out tendencies. And a lot of it has to do with Tyreek Hill not being there as well. So you're looking at your wide receivers and you know, Smith-Schuster and Mecole Hardman and, you know, the other weapons you have. And while they've still continued to put up points, they haven't done it the clip that they've done in the past couple of years. I think it's the loss of Tyreek Hill. And really, when it comes down to it, it's just that the rest of the league is beginning to figure them out a little bit.
I think a lot of it has to do with the play calling.
I would agree with that as well.
The play calling, you can tell the dynamic. The relationship that the players have with Andy Reid is one of the best in the NFL. It's one of the best in sports. Yeah. Andy Reid is the guy, is like that just lovable father figure for his players. Can't say the same about Eric Bieniemy.
No.
And you have seen him clash with players on the sidelines, most notably Patrick Mahomes.
Patrick Mahomes, right.
And when the coach, this goes for any sport, but this is a main football thing right here. When a coach and an offensive coordinator are not on the same page, bad things tend to happen. And it's starting to look like that shows more.
Right.
And so, and let's not pretend, look, the AFC West has supremely underwhelmed. The Broncos, while they have a good defense, have one of the worst offenses in the league. The Raiders have been extremely disappointing, although, you know, I don't like the Raiders anyway, so, yeah. But from a non-biased perspective, they've been very disappointing. And the Chargers they're the most injury-riddled team in probably sports.
Yeah, they're in bad shape.
So the Chiefs should be way ahead from where they're at.
Right.
And they can't afford any more mistakes, because once the Chargers do get healthy, and if the Broncos finally decide, hey, you know what, we got Russ for our future, we might as well try to do something with it. Anything can happen in the NFL. So the Chiefs need to figure that out, and they need to figure it out fast.
Very true. Kind of like the Blues.
Yes. And
oh, God.
Yes, we're going to quickly delve into the St. Louis Blues, because the Blues have lost 8 games in a row. None of them have been pretty. I mean, and people may say a loss isn't pretty. I can be close. These haven't been close. These have been absolute bloodbaths. And folks, this is a franchise record, 8 consecutive losses. I want to say eventually it has to end, but I don't know. When the hell is it going to end, James? Because this is like somebody getting stabbed, and then you just take the knife back out, and then you just keep on stabbing them.
Well, it's funny that you bring that up. I will use a Doug Armstrong quote from a couple of years ago, that you need to take the knife and stab it into their eye, into their brain, and kill them. We don't do that. Yeah, no doubt, right? Maybe not Berube. I'm kind of scared of him, and he played in the league and had over 200 fights. I don't want anything to do with Chief. Yes, they make me cry as well. You've lost 8 in a row. It started with the 4-1 loss to Winnipeg back on October 24th. You get beat handily by a Philadelphia Flyers team last night, 5-1. You get, same thing with Boston on Monday night. I think it ends tomorrow night against San Jose. But the problem is 1, you're not scoring goals, and 2, God, I hate to say this, because I would hate to think that any professional athlete doesn't always give their best effort. But we are at the point where, and Doug Armstrong said, look, Chief's not going anywhere. This is on you guys. Ryan O'Reilly has said, yes, it's on us. It's on us, the players. Braden Shin has said the same thing. I am sick and tired of hearing the same thing after every loss. It reminds me a lot of times of Jeff Fisher when the Rams would get beat in St. Louis. It's the same old song and dance. We're seeing the same thing every night. The Blues played well for the first 5 minutes last night, and they give up a goal, and once they give up a goal, the head goes down, the shoulders slump, boom, it's over. You got to quit hanging your goaltenders out to dry, because you're putting, by not scoring and by not giving the effort, you're putting so much pressure on your goaltenders that if they give up a goal, then they're like, oh, well, there's one. Here's the problem. What fire did they have at that point that they are currently missing? David Perron. And Perron's not going to fix all your problems. My biggest worry and my biggest fear is that when Perron signed in Detroit, that he took this team's heart with him. Perron, he was more of a power play player than anything. That's where he got the majority of his points, goals and assists. But sometimes having a team's mentality and being the conscience of a team, it means more than what he puts on the scoreboard. There's another player as well, Alexander Steen. That's another player that they had in 2019 that was very conscience-based inside that room. David Perron and Alexander Steen. And we saw the Blues have success last year. I still think that they beat Colorado in the second round of the playoffs if that damn goon Nazem Kadri doesn't run over Jordan Bennington. The point being is Perron walked out. He was gone. Jim Montgomery, the coach now of the Boston Bruins, he's their head coach. He was on your coaching staff. There are some things very similar that the Blues and the Cardinals have in common, and I think the Blues do it as well. They overvalue their prospects, or in this case, you're overvaluing players like Colton Parayko. Parayko is not the defenseman everybody thought he was going to be. It's very obvious to me that Justin Falk at this point in time is a better defenseman than Colton Parayko. Need a young guy to step up in a lead role. Sure you do. That would be a Jordan Kyrou or a Robert Thomas. They sent down Jake Neighbors earlier today if you missed that. But the thing is like everybody wants to put it on Kyrou. Oh, they signed him to this $8 million contract. Sure, it's fine. Same thing with Robert Thomas. Those contracts start next year. And yeah, they're going to be the future core of this team. But right now, it's got to be your captain. And your captain cannot go to anybody else in that locker room and say, look, you got to step up, or you got to do this, you got to do that, when he's not producing himself. They're going to say, oh, Jeremy, we got to have a better show. We got to have a better show. But if I don't show prep, or I come in here not knowing what the hell I'm talking about, which some of you might argue I don't anyway. But if I come in and do that, what credibility does that give me if I'm sitting here preaching to Jeremy that he needs to do something, or vice versa, and the other person doesn't show up? So, there are so many facets to the game of ice hockey that this team has to figure things out. Yeah, it was great to see Shen and Bortuzzo get into fights last night to try to spark this team. Why is it always the same two players?
It's interesting you brought up David Perron. That was where I was actually going to go with this. When David Perron left, this is like the Blues paying for the sins of Perron walking and leaving.
Yeah, it's very true.
And you've noticed now that a lot of fans realize that Colton Parayko is not who we thought he was. And he's not the same as in 2019. And you're like, oh, yeah, but not everybody can be. Yeah, but the thing of it is, the reason the Blues won the Stanley Cup in 2019, it wasn't a super team. It was a team that was so full of heart, soul, and passion.
Grit and determination. Yep.
And grit and determination. Because when they were at the bottom, they got together, they banded together, and climbed all the way back to the top.
Yeah.
And that's what made that team special. And that energy is gone.
They're going to get, ultimately, we've always said that when it comes to firing a coach, it's easier to get rid of one guy, replace one guy, than it is to get rid of 23 or 24. And I'm afraid, I'm extremely concerned that they're going to get Craig Berube fired. And it's going to be no fault of Berube's at all. We saw back in, and I think I mentioned this last week whenever I went off on my rant about the Blues and how bad they were playing. We saw how many coaches that core of Backus and Oshie and Berglund and Steen and those guys got fired. Perron was part of those cores at times as well. Excuse me. But, all it took was for Perron and Oshie and those guys to mature. Oshie goes to Washington, wins the Stanley Cup. David Perron ultimately ends up winning one here in St. Louis in 2019. It comes down to it is that you need a spark. You need, and that's a good point, Jared. And according to those that are in the inside and know, is that this team is united and that they are together. Maybe there needs to be a little bit of a rift in the locker room. Maybe there needs to be some accountability. If the guy next to you in the locker says, "Hey, you're not pulling your weight, pick your shit up and let's fucking go," and play a complete game instead of, "Oh, well, we give up a goal, so let's get our asses beat to 5-1 by a team in the Flyers that hasn't been good in years." So it's hard as a fan to sit and watch this when we think, and I have not missed a game all year. I've watched them play. I can watch a game and break it down, and it's bad. There's no back checking. There's no the third forward end isn't getting in on the forecheck. Passes out of your zone. They're sloppy. You've got a team that can't put 3 passes together. You've got passes that are going up the middle of the ice in your own zone. It's a good way of giving up a goal, and then you're leaving your goaltender out to dry. Colton Parayko, I have no clue. You want to talk about bad deals or extensions or young players that need to pick it up? He is 6'7" on skates, and he plays like a sissy. He's pushed around. He's not where he needs to be. There's no communication. I mean, look, if you and I can watch this team and figure out that this team is flat, there's no energy, and they're not communicating, then why the hell can't the coaches and the guys in the room figure that out themselves?
I really don't know. I don't know why the team is performing the way they are. I don't think it will lead to Berube getting fired because I feel like the organization, the front office is learning from the mistakes from the past. I think a big example of that was Ken Hitchcock, who was a really good coach, but paid the price. They got him
fired too.
But paid the price of the mistakes of the players.
Same thing with Mike Yeo.
Mike Yeo wasn't my favorite, but I felt like he also didn't get a full chance.
Well, no, not when you hire Craig Berube to be on your damn staff and you've got the head coach in waiting right there.
Right. And, you see the fire that Chief has too. You've seen the fire he has in him in the leadership. So I just feel like and I feel like it's just a lack of energy. I feel like when guys left, albeit whether it's from the Kraken's expansion draft or just from, free agency last year, there's just something left with them. Something left with the Blues.
This team should be a team that nobody wants to play against, a team that is feared, a team that whenever you strap them on and you jump on the ice with the St. Louis Blues is a team where after that game, after 60 minutes, 65, whatever the hell it is, you're going to be sore and you're going to know you were in a fight. Right now, there's not a damn team in the league, Kraken included, that is afraid to step on the ice with the St. Louis Blues. All from the top to the bottom, at this point in time. And look, there has to be accountability. But there is not one team in the National Hockey League that is afraid for them to come into the building or for them to go to Enterprise Center and beat that team. There is absolutely, and you know what? I don't know what it comes down to. I hope you're right. I hope Berube doesn't get fired. But it comes down to the point that team used to be, even when we were getting eliminated in the first, second round, when you had David Backus as your center and he was aging and wasn't the same player, teams that played against the Blues knew that they were in a fight. Right now, the only team this team can beat is themselves. And quite frankly, it's pathetic. You can't go from being a team that at one point in time made the playoffs 24 consecutive years in a row to a team right now that is looking up at the Arizona freaking Coyotes.
That was the most depressing one.
A team that plays in a college hockey freaking
They don't even get
room.
revenue from their
They don't even have their own damn building. And you're sitting there sharing a locker room with a bunch of beer-fueled, punk-ass frat house boys, and it's pathetic. It blows my mind that you've got all these high-priced players and all of this talent, and that's absolutely freaking pathetic. The worst team in the fucking league if it weren't for the Columbus Blue Jackets.
Even then, it makes it debatable because I'll tell you this: the Blues may not be the worst team in the league if it weren't for the Blue Jackets, but I'll say this much: they definitely have the least passion. And you know what? And then you'll be like, oh, but you're saying they don't have passion for the game? No, what I'm saying is right now, you look at all the other teams in the league. Look at all the grit. Look at how much of a fight they put up whenever something's going wrong, whenever they're down, whenever it's tied. They keep at it. Meanwhile, you look at the Blues, they're down 1-0, and it feels like it's 40-0.
Well, we saw it last night. So the Flyers are up 3-0. O'Reilly scores to make it 3-1, and the Flyers the next shift come out and score. That's how you answer goals. Right now, the Blues it's like, oh, you stole their puppy.
Yeah,
you know,
the Blues
to quote the movie Billy Madison, you go out and find that fucking dog. Instead,
we talk about how my dad had brought up how it's better to be slumping now than it is to be slumping later. The problem is, which is true, it is 100% true, because you would rather not be this way in April and May, but at the same time, as much as it was great seeing them win it all in 2019, that doesn't mean, hey, we want to see you guys start out in last place in the league every single year and then just watch you shoot up, because at some point, that's not going to work anymore. And there's less and less players from that team. So it's a whole new set, and
what the hell does it matter? You may not be able to win a Stanley Cup in November, but by God, you can lose one. At this rate, you're not even going to make the playoffs. You may have a lottery pick when it comes to the draft in June. That's how bad this team is.
Maybe they need a lottery pick, though. Have you thought of that? Like, that's the thing. Maybe at this point they do, because they're missing something clearly that the Blues have been known for a long time for having.
Right, and I get Jared's point about, going to multiple games and quite embarrassed to even support the Blues. I won't go that far, because while, I'm frustrated and obviously I'm pissed off about it, I love my Blues. They will always be my Blues. Matter of fact,
oh, absolutely.
I'm hoping by next week's show I'll be wearing a different surprise. But anyway, the point being is it's very frustrating to watch, because and the reason it's so frustrating is because we all know they're better, that there's more in the tank, and we expect better. That's why we're frustrated. It's the idea, Jeremy, and we've talked about this earlier in the summer. It's the idea of being so pissed off at the Cardinals. If we didn't care so much, if we didn't love our teams, if we weren't fully invested, we wouldn't get mad. It's the same. I say that you could use it in any aspect in life. If I didn't care about you, if I didn't love you, I wouldn't get pissed off.
Exactly. We would have been if we didn't care. It's like, they're losing. It happens.
You never want your fan base to become empathetic, and I know a lot of Blues fans are getting there, because if you go on Twitter during a game, Twitter's a cesspool anyway. We'll get into more of that in the coming shows. Twitter's a cesspool anyway. You don't know who to trust anymore. But it is what it is, and hopefully they can turn it around tomorrow night. And so we'll go from there. It's too early in the season to give up on this team yet, but
it's not too early to get pissed off at them.
Right, and it's not too early to be concerned.
There's the best way. It's not too early to give, or it's too early to give up, but not too early to be concerned.
Correct. Yep.
So, folks, with that, we're up for the final segment of the show, and that is, first off, thank you all so much for tuning in to Roundabout Sports, presented by Interstate 70 Sports Media. I'm the maestro, Jeremy Carp, and along with what's left of Hollywood James Knox on.
Yeah, I'm running on fumes, baby. I
was going to say, he's running on fumes. I'm running on lovely Ice Mountain water. It's the go-to, man.
I'm one down. This is not good for your health, but I'm one down.
See, there's the difference right there.
Hey, look, I've gone through one of these too.
So today is a very significant event in the history of professional wrestling. It's the anniversary, I should say.
Anniversary.
James,
ring the bell.
Yeah, ring the damn bell.
Ring the bell.
So we're gonna flash back to November 9th, 1997. Ooh. And it was I
was 17 years old.
Oh my gosh, it was 2.
Shut up, Jeremy.
You said it first by saying your age. So
I don't need you to pile on.
Well, you know what? That's on you for that one.
Yeah, well, that's true.
I can't help you out on that one.
Huh?
Don't make me bring out the possessed tiger again.
Look, no. You know what's funny? While you're looking this up, I saw I might have been watching MLB Network, and they were showing logos, and they showed that, and I almost fell off my bed laughing so damn hard.
Like this? Yes, folks. One quick side note before we get to the segment, I have to explain the point. We did a show a couple weeks ago on our Halloween special, which we really recommend you all check in. And it's the best and worst uniforms and logos in sports history. And we still have plenty to go for. This was from 1927 to 28 of the Detroit Tigers. Yes, it looks absolutely possessed, like you would see in a Stanley Kubrick movie. Nevertheless, okay.
Oh, I'd hit my cough button there for a second.
We're flashing back to November 9th, 1997 at Survivor Series. And yes, James was 17 years old.
Yeah.
And these days, look at that youthful appearance he still has. Anyway, so the background about this. So it was Shawn Michaels versus Bret Hart for the WWF Championship. Now, Vince McMahon wanted Bret to drop the belt, and Bret said yes, but he wouldn't do it against Shawn Michaels in Montreal because, just no, there's no way he would do that. And why not? Because those two were at each other's throats.
Oh boy!
And if you've ever watched the series Dark Side of the Ring, highly recommend that series. Recommend a great show on Vice. And one of the episodes details the Montreal Screwjob.
Yes, it was really good.
And had some of the people that were there, including Bret Hart himself.
Pluto TV has all of those on demand as well.
Yeah, go to Pluto TV
and
as well.
Free.
Great free service. So anyway, basically what happened is Shawn Michaels puts Bret Hart in his finishing move, which once again, I'll put the picture up, which is known as the sharpshooter. And referee Earl Hebner, as you see on the right, is calling for the bell on the orders of Vince McMahon. Even though in wrestling, the bell on a submission is when you tap out. Well, Bret Hart didn't tap out. He loses the title, and all hell breaks loose. Mm-hmm. All of this happened basically because Bret Hart was going to go to WCW, and Vince did not want to lose the championship along the way.
Yep.
And Jared says how Bret screwed Bret, and that leads to a big thing. Did Vince screw Bret or Bret screw Bret? It's a whole ordeal. And yes, this all included Bret Hart hocking a huge loogie on Vince McMahon's face.
Yeah.
And Bret almost wanted to get out of the ring and just beat the living hell out of him. He destroyed $thousands worth of equipment and wiring.
And he got his shot in on Vince back in the locker room area. Boy, did he pop him.
Back in the locker room, Bret was in the shower or was about to take a shower and said, "Look, if you're out here, when I come back out of the shower, I'm gonna knock you out, basically."
Yeah. So
meanwhile, Vince just waits while Bret takes a shower. Bret's just in there taking a shower. Vince just patiently waiting. So they tie up, and then right there, and it's an uppercut. And Vince, you see, visibly has a black eye on the next episode of Raw and everything. Like, it's one of the most infamous moments in wrestling history. And James, you've been a lifelong wrestling fan. Take me through what that was like for you witnessing, like knowing about how that whole.
It's weird because like back in '97, it's not like it was today where you have the internet and everything else and guys that, leak spoilers and whatnot. So you didn't really know what happened. And, we all thought that maybe Bret tapped or he gave up, but it's weird. And so I'll take you from my point of view, because I was not a WCW fan during the Monday Night Wars. I was, I grew up with WWF and now WWE. And I did like WCW like earlier, like when you had the Clash of Champions and stuff like that were on TBS and whatnot. But so for me, I was and still am a big Shawn Michaels fan. I was a huge HBK fan. So for me, I was happy because he was the champion. And then you find out, like, after everything comes out, we know now, like, because kayfabe, while it's still there, doesn't really exist like it did back in the 90s before the internet and all these insiders and stuff. So, it's just weird because you find out Bret didn't want to do business, and Vince didn't want to run into a situation where he did with Alundra Blaze / Medusa, where she put the women's championship in the trash can on WCW Nitro. Brett didn't want to do business, so Vince did the only thing he felt like he could do to take the belt off of Bret Hart, and Brett didn't want to drop it to Shawn because they had the huge, like the Hart Foundations, versus DX feud. They didn't like each other personally. There were personal shots taken, even as, yep, there you go.
There's the picture. The moment from when Medusa dropped the WWF Women's Championship, which was deactivated for many years, live on Nitro.
Yep.
Their rival, and dumped the championship in a trash can.
Like, to me, there's still and I thought it was funny that she brought that title out when she was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame, during her ceremony, where she brought that out. She goes, you guys were, looking for this or waiting for this. It's weird. Like, it's crazy to think that, knowing what we know now, that, Brett didn't want to do business. Vince thought it was the only way to take the belt off of him, and at that point in time, like, all the wrestlers, all the boys in the locker room, they didn't know if they could trust Vince. Like, even the Undertaker came out, as far as like, how am I supposed to trust you, or what's going on here? And then Vince had to sit down and kind of explain everything to what was going on. And did Brett screw Brett? Yeah. I mean, there are conflicting stories that he said, I could have dropped it, the next night on Raw or whatnot. But, I'll tell you one thing, it definitely set up the fact, and it set up the Mr. McMahon character. If that doesn't happen, then the Steve Austin versus Mr. McMahon feud, does that come together and coagulate the way that we all saw it play out? I mean, it's crazy. But being a wrestling fan in the 90s, and when that happened, you're just like, nobody knew what to think. It was the craziest thing ever.
The biggest thing. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say the other thing too is like watching Shawn, Triple H, China, and at that point in time, Ravishing Rick Rude, may he rest in peace, get the hell out of there, and do so in such a fashion of where you could tell like something was seriously going on.
Yeah,
it was crazy.
The Mr. McMahon character is, say what you want about Vince McMahon, and there's always a lot to say. The Mr. McMahon character might perhaps be the greatest character in the history of professional wrestling because of what it brought. It kept the WWF alive because he was able to feud with Stone Cold. The Stone Cold versus Mr. McMahon rivalry is iconic on so many levels. It is the typical anti-hero versus the evil corporate boss. Because before that happened, Mr. McMahon or Vince McMahon, whatever, it was a commentator for decades. He was a commentator for so long, and he was a commentator during the Survivor Series pay-per-view.
Yeah.
In '97 when the screw job happened. But as things started to unravel more, it was starting to become known publicly, as far as fans go, that he was the owner of the company. Because, back then, kayfabe was a lot different.
Yep, no doubt.
And so, yeah.
I'll say you're right. I mean, there's really nothing else I can say. You are right. He is definitely one of the best characters ever in WWE, if not the biggest heel ever. Like, think about it. The rivalry between him and Austin. Who the hell has never, ever wanted to go in and just absolutely like Stone Cold stun their boss?
Yeah, and literally, all the things that Vince McMahon would go through. I'm not going to lie. You know what? I think my favorite Vince McMahon quote, well, okay, there's plenty to choose from. But this one I love because it's a backstage quote, and it's something he genuinely meant. And the quote is that, and as I wait for James to come back, I'll say it. Vince McMahon would always say that he would never let someone do something he wouldn't do. So there's a lot of stunts which I know when you talk about the passing of Owen Hart brings up a big question mark, but that's another story. There's a lot of stunts he's done, a lot of moves he's performed, a lot of things. He was born into the business. He loves the business. But the Montreal Screwjob one of the most pivotal moments in the history of professional wrestling. And it's crazy to think that it's already been 25 years since it has happened. And with that, I was just saying, James, that yeah, there's one right there, just like the Stun at Mania with Robert Gronkowski.
Right.
Now earlier Josh had brought this up, or it was your Josh or Jared, and it is one thing I do want to close the show with as far as topics go.
Certainly.
And that is Crown Jewel 2022.
Yeah.
So Logan in the main event, Logan Paul faced off against Roman Reigns. You know what? Roman Reigns is one of the best WWE champions in a long time.
It's true. I mean, I don't like him, but he plays.
But that's
he
the
does
point.
his job right.
The whole bloodline, and it's great because you have Roman Reigns, his cousin, Solo,
Sikoa,
Solo Sikoa, and Jimmy and Jay the Usos, and Sami Zayn, who is just an absolute riot. I freaking love him.
Are you feeling Usi tonight?
Yeah, feeling Usi.
Feeling Usi.
And Paul Heyman, the counsel for the tribal chief. But anyway, he faced it off against Logan Paul. And Logan Paul, he's a YouTuber. He's delved into boxing. He's a hell of an athlete. He's already been in he's wrestled at WrestleMania before, and he tore his ACL. And I believe he tore his meniscus as well.
ACL, MCL, and his meniscus, yeah.
Yeah. And he's already rehabbing, according to Jack's history, which is unbelievable to think about. But the thing of it is, people would be like, well, Logan Paul's not going to do it. Logan Paul made that. It was a hell of a match between those two.
Right.
And, of course, Roman Reigns retains it. But, yeah, it just... the Crown Jewel pay-per-views, which are held in Saudi Arabia, have received a lot of criticism in the past few years. A, because they mainly sucked as far as quality goes.
And
B,
two,
the whole blood money from Saudi Arabia. We all know. I mean, anybody that follows any world news knows about the type of political atmosphere out in Saudi Arabia, and not just a bunch of political turmoil, just a bunch of
civil rights,
civil rights, human rights issues. Like women were not allowed to attend these events unless they're accompanied by a man, and things like that.
Excuse me.
So there's just so many things. This year's event got a lot more praise. The quality from top to bottom, the show they said was really good. I enjoyed it, and I mean, it's another. Star show from the Triple H era,
Man, he's killing it, and he's going to continue to kill it. And in 2 weeks, Jeremy and I have already kind of discussed this. We will, we're going to talk about the next pay-per-view, which is Survivor Series, and they're introducing War Games to the main roster, which will be amazing. And, we're going to kind of do like the Survivor Series, like the top Survivor Series moments of all time. And that's something we're going to throw out to everybody and get everybody involved in. I mean, look, Triple H understands, well, he knows how to play the game. He is a businessman. He's an entertainer. His wife, obviously, Steph is around it. His brother-in-law, Shane McMahon, those guys, I mean, he's just this, Shane reminds me of I don't know, maybe a smaller Logan Paul, just by some of the stuff that he's not afraid to do. I thought Crown Jewel was good. Look, I agree with Jared. I wasn't a fan of Brock and Bobby. There's obviously something else there that's going to lead to that. Karrion Kross and Drew. Look, Karrion Kross and it's Scarlett. Yikes. So I don't know where we're going, but I think it's a journey that we're all going to, we're all going to enjoy the ride getting there. But yeah, I mean, Crown Jewel was okay. Maybe a B show. It wasn't the A show I thought that I was looking forward to. I don't know. It's hard to say. It's a good question. Who do you think will be the last three from, women's War Games, Damage Control and Nikki Cross and a mystery partner against Bianca, Alexa, Asuka, and a mystery partner? I don't know. And like the whole Brock and Lashley fight pit thing would be great, but they moved past that on Monday Night Raw because Lashley absolutely just destroyed everything at the end of the show. So, it's, I don't know. With Triple H, there's no telling where it's going to go. And I think it's something that we can all finally agree on, that WWE is finally back where it needs to be.
Absolutely. So, in closing, so you talk about in a couple weeks we'll be doing that show. 2 weeks we'll be doing the Survivor Series show. The Survivor Series is Saturday the 26th.
Yep.
And we will be on air on the 23rd.
Yep.
As for next week, I'm just going to, because we're about to wrap it up here tonight, folks. But I have to show you in one simple picture what the main focus of next week's show is going to be. Don't worry, there's going to be plenty of news going on, but this is going to be the big one. I think that about says it all. And I'm telling you right now, it won't cost you $8 to tune in to the show. So you'll be fortunate on that one.
Boo that man. Boo him.
That man.
Boo
yeah, exactly.
Him.
This is definitely something that's going to have to be talked about on its own. I know Josh doesn't like him. Jared doesn't like him. The fate of sports journalism and the integrity of it.
Something that we both worked so hard to achieve, and watch it get pissed down the toilet because of Mr. Millionaire Elon Musk. So
right. That is why we're going to be discussing what's going on with that next week. In addition to so many other topics in the worlds of professional wrestling and baseball. Once again, free agency is going to be kicking off in a few days. So also make sure to tune in to the Strike Zone. James will be...
yeah, man.
Yeah. 5 minutes in a room is... here you go. Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk. There you go. So thank you all so much also for the interactions tonight. It has been absolutely phenomenal from start to finish. Please, every week, this is the type of thing we'd love to see from you.
Yeah, this has been great.
You can find us on YouTube. We're on Twitter for now. We're on.
Yeah.
it's just like
damn you and your blue check mark.
We are on Twitter, but I was like, yeah, well, then again, we are on Facebook, and don't worry, we don't got to worry about that. Before we close it up, I always, as we close the show with putting up the hotline for the National Alliance of Mental Illness, and the helpline is 1-800-950-NAMI. That is 1-800-950-NAMI. It is a wonderful organization that was originally started as a grassroots campaign to bring more awareness on mental illness, not just in America, but eventually worldwide as well. Also, we have the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline on here, and you just dial 988. It used to be a longer number, but they have shortened it now to just dialing 988. The line is open 24/7, 365, 366 on leap years. And understand that you are never alone in this world. All you need to do is just make that one call, that one text, that one message. There's somebody out there that always will listen and care about you. And we thank you all so much for tuning in every week. We do our very best. We love doing this, and we don't plan on going anywhere anytime soon. I'll tell you that much. But just know that life is a precious gift. So thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of Roundabout Sports. I'm the maestro, Jeremy Karp. He's Hollywood James Knox. And we will catch you here next week. But before we go, always remember that life is a book full of empty pages just waiting to be written in. Make your lives worth reading.